So I wanted to schedule this call to have this discussion with Kristen because there's a concept that I'm sure I've read it in places, but that really came to life for me recently. And I think it came through a conversation that you and I were having, Kristen, where at some point I told, and is it okay for me to share the specifics of it?
Yeah, I think so.
Of what the insight was? Yeah. That at some point, and I've known Kristen for a long time, so it's not like I'm psychic and I can read people like a psychic, but from knowing her very well, at some point I said, the challenge for you in your life is, and it's very similar to something I've experienced, is that we have so much clarity about what's possible or what's right or what's supposed to be, and we're so acutely aware of the difference of what we're living in the moment that it's unbearable. It's absolutely unbearable. We're not able to make ourselves live like other people lived. We're not able to be satisfied or to settle for what we have. We literally can't. Like, our bodies feel the pain. For me, it's emotional pain. For Kristen, oftentimes it's physical symptoms that just, but both of us get incapacitated by it. And it's something that I've noticed in a lot of women. And I say women because I primarily work with women. So I'm not saying men don't have it. I'm just saying that's my area of experience. So that's the only place where I can speak to it from this place of knowing, because I've experienced it so many times. So when I say women, always in all of my work, unless I'm talking about periods, it could absolutely apply to men too, but it's just because that's where my experience is. So I'm in no way trying to exclude men or fathers from anything that I ever write or say. But so something I've noticed in women who, like Kristen and I, and oftentimes, I might even say, I would venture to say 100% of the time, it's people who are highly sensitive too. That we are so acutely aware. No, I said that already. It's like we have a vision. Like, there's a part of us that knows, that just knows what's possible and can feel everything that's off. And that's a bitch of a thing to live with. It's a gift. It is such a gift. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people who make really positive things happen in the world, that's why. Because it's our only way out of pain. We don't have a choice. We don't have this ability to settle. We don't have this ability to be okay with the status quo. And I want to speak to the people in our lives and the people who love us. It's a bitch of a journey to be with us on. Because what you see is us suffering, us always looking for answers, us trying new things, us oftentimes doing a shit ton of healing work, us being in pain, us crying because we don't have the ability to express our emotions. And we know what we don't want. We know what feels wrong and off and what's not okay. But oftentimes it takes a while to know what we're reaching for and to figure out how to get there. And I really feel like, I mean, I've come to realize maybe a year or two ago that I really feel like my purpose in life is to really make it known what is possible in the world. So both in terms of, so my specific areas, and I'm sure people have many different things that's their mission, people who struggle with that gap that Kristen and I struggle with. There are many, many areas that might be like your vision of what's possible and that you struggle with. For me, there are two very specific ones. One is what's possible with parenting, which that I figured out really early on when I read the continuum concept in 1995. And then it took me a couple of years to figure out how to implement it, but then I did. And what I had with my family was amazing. It was effortless. It was easy. It was smooth. There was no conflict in the family. My kids didn't even fight. I've come to call it family homeostasis. And so I do believe that, and the reason that I achieved that and so quickly, and when I was still in my 20s, when I was so emotionally immature and clueless, is that there was a part in me that just knew somehow what was possible and could not settle for anything less. So oftentimes I didn't even know what to do. I just knew what was not an option for me. And then I would just keep reaching for, searching for what was the opposite of what was not okay with me. And because it was a hard no on what was not an option for me, I didn't stop looking until I found the yes. And I would find it. So my inability to settle is what it allowed me to essentially create what I now call clean parenting. And to have that as a given for the rest of my life with my kids. And they're amazing as a result of it. Like, they're incredibly healthy. They're not normal human beings. Not that they're not normal, but they're like the example of a plant that, instead of growing up in a desert, got the sun and the nutrients and the soil and the water that it needed to grow properly. So I'm not saying they're better than other people as a result of it. I'm just saying they got what they needed because I knew how to parent. And like Kristen's son, who is 6 years old and who I consider the poster child for clean parenting, he has that too. It's like she's done parenting him in a lot of ways. Like, his sense of self is so strong, his inner guidance, he's just, because he got what he needed. And by 6, he's so solid. He's more solid than probably 99.9% of adults. So that's what's possible for parenting. And for me, the other area is what's possible in terms of emotional healing, of recovering from emotional trauma and from like narcissistic abuse, emotional abuse, childhood neglect, all of this stuff, and mental illness. Like, for me, I struggled a lot with depression, like debilitating depression for decades and decades. That it's possible to recover from it. And that, it took me 51 years to figure out. I feel like I just came out of it now, where I feel like I finally brought myself to the place where my daughters are. So it's not like I have zero issues. It's not like I have no baggage. It's not like I have no trauma left. It doesn't mean I'll never have challenges and struggles and maybe little depressions, but I'm basically like how I consider my 3 daughters and Kristen's dash to be, where I've healed myself enough for my foundation to be solid, so that I'm able to deal with what comes up without being completely debilitated by it. And I reached that, but it took me decades. So it's been 41 years of depressions and probably, I don't know, $100,000 of paying different professionals and therapists and doing retreats and putting my family and my loved one through seeing me through all my ups and downs, and where it's horrific to be watching somebody that you love going through all of this. And like, I hit rock bottom 4 years ago and I was suicidal. And, you know, in the last, 7 years, at some point I gained almost 100 pounds. And I mean, I was completely becoming a shadow of myself in terms of my personality, and then this, like humongous, where, not that there's anything wrong with being overweight, but it's not me to let myself go in that. It was just really a symptom of, I couldn't deal with anything. I mean, I would literally go weeks without brushing my teeth. Like, that's how bad it got. So it is so hard to witness for the people around us, but it is possible to fully heal from this debilitating mental illness. I've become the poster child for that, which I'm so excited about. But really what I want to talk about today is that it's that living in the gap. Like, there is, for some of us, we, for the longest time, just live in that gap of that discomfort, sometimes agony, sometimes debilitating gap of, we cannot not know what's possible, and we cannot be okay with where we are. And I feel like, at least when it comes to parenting and to emotional issues, through my life journey, which I think must have been planted in me, because it makes no sense that I knew how to parent that way in my 20s. It makes no sense. And the only reason is I feel like it must have been my purpose or something to do that. But that I feel like, one, I want to educate people about the possibility of it, and then I want to help them bridge that gap way more quickly than I did. So to do it efficiently. And wow, this was supposed to be a conversation, and I'm not even letting Kristen say anything. So she is nodding all along the whole time I'm talking. But so I'll just say one more thing, and then Kristen, you can jump in. So sorry. That's what happens when you live in the gap for 20 some years or 30 some years, and finally you come out of it. You can't shut up, and you have so much energy and clarity that the poor people around you have no room to talk whatsoever. Because all this energy that's been suppressed for decades is like shooting out of me. I'm like a freaking obnoxious geyser these days,
but no, everything you say like lands with me so much that I'm just like, say more.
Okay. That's why you and I are match made in heaven, because I love to talk and you love to listen to me talk. I mean, I think the nicest thing, the most, I don't know what, maybe like the thing that's made me happiest of, I think, anything I've ever heard in my whole life, Kristen, was one time when I told you, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. And you said, oh, no, talk. I never want to miss something that you're going to say. And I was like, oh my God, somebody who not only gives me permission to interrupt, and when I've spent 30 years trying to give people more space and stop interrupting them. So not only that, but you consider my interrupting you a gift and something that you don't want to miss the gem that's going to come out of my mouth. Holy cow. Like that might be the greatest gift you ever gave me, Kristen. And you've given me, probably 3,000 by now. So, anyway, what was it? So one thing I wanted to say. So, like, for me, I described very specifically what my areas of gap are or were, because I don't feel like I have them anymore. Oh, well, yeah, I'm living in another one, a challenging one. But anyway, that one I don't anticipate will take years to work through. But so I guess what I would say for those of you who are living in that painful, debilitating gap is, I would really wish for you to trust your vision and to honor your high sensitivity that makes you, so for those of us who are highly sensitive, and I'll include links to that, they say it's like 15-20% of mammals, actually, not just humans, but mammals, who have this highly sensitive nervous system. And if you think of it in terms of like Aboriginal cultures, is that what's the politically correct term for that? I can't stand how here they say Native Americans, because it's just another example of how Americans think they're so self-centered, or the whole world, that they call like Native cultures Americans. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
But indigenous cultures. Okay, so highly sorry to the Americans if anybody got offended by that comment, but I'm obviously not an American born, so yeah, I feel like I have a little outside perspective on this. In Aboriginal culture, what did I say? Indigenous cultures, the highly sensitive people would typically be the shamans, who are, they're like the wise people of the tribe, and they're the people who are aware of things that other people aren't aware of. So if you're living in that gap, it's very possible that you're also highly sensitive, and that you have that gift of being that visionary, that person who can see things that other people can't see. And I never want to put pressure on anybody, because your job is just to, live in your truth and figure out what feels right for you in terms of living your life. But I think that for a lot of us who are highly sensitive, the opportunity is that we can be the ones who bring new information and new ways of being into the world, where people who are not highly sensitive, but who resonate with our values, we then make it available for them because they don't have the vision to necessarily think outside of the mainstream or outside of the norm to go create those things that we have the ability to do. So one piece of advice would be trust that vision and don't beat yourself up for not being able to do what the majority of people can do, because as a highly sensitive person, you are literally incapable to live like other people live. You're too sensitive. And get to know about highly sensitive nervous system, educate yourself about that, and figure out how to honor your highly sensitive nature by creating a life that works for you. So that's one thing. Then the other thing, so stop beating yourself up for not being like other people. Start doing your healing work, because if you're highly sensitive, chances are you got highly traumatized by living in the world that you live in, unless you happen to be living that Equana tribe that the continuum concept talked about, or some utopic little community. Chances are you have a whole bunch of trauma. So get support to get your healing work. Really prioritize getting your needs met in your life so that you can start thriving and be able to be the person that you can be if your needs are properly met and if you have a life that's attuned to who you are or to like your sensitive nature. And then take your vision seriously and get help to make it a reality. And don't think you have to figure it all out on your own, because there's few people who are able to do that. I think I'm a little bit unique as a highly sensitive person, that there's a way that I'm also really, like I'm a doer. And I think most highly sensitive people are not necessarily doers. So for me, like I'm a doer and I'm very extroverted, which usually most highly sensitive, or there's a lot of, I think the majority of highly sensitive people are introverted. So the fact that I'm extroverted, there's a way that it makes it something easier for me, I think, than most highly sensitive people. And then I'm like from a family of accountants and business people. So I have that really like kind of organized mind and this kind of street smarts that I think helps me, makes it easier for me to create my visions than I think most highly sensitive people who are way more in their right brain. So maybe that's what it is. Like, I think some might not have the left brain aspect as strong. And I don't know, that I'm just theorizing. Some of this is just coming as I'm talking right now. I've never really thought about that. But my point is that, like, so take seriously your vision and take seriously just how you're wired, and not expect for you to be wired differently than you are, but just honor exactly who you are, and then get the help that you need for you to be healthy, for you to become emotionally strong, for you to have the support that you need in the areas that are not your forte, and then to get the help that you need to accomplish your vision. Like when you really resonate with an author, just follow that person. Or if you really resonate with some kind of healing modality or some kind of practitioner, like, to me, I say I spent $100,000. I don't know. I wish I had tracked it, but I'm sure it is. And it might even be more than that. And right now I'm broke and I'm in debt and whatever, but I don't regret a penny that I've spent on that, because that's what's brought me to life. That's what's given me life. My car is 17 years old. I don't care. I mean, it'd be nice now to think that the brakes still work properly, which I'm not sure of, but I don't care about that. But I care about being emotionally healthy. It's not having the car, and I love driving. So for me to have like such a junker that I'm driving, but what's really added to my life is all the healing work that I've done that's brought me more and more inner peace and more in alignment with living what I believe, what feels true, what feels right. And where I can more and more show up in alignment with my values. Like there's so many benefits that are so many like positive results to the work that I've been doing the past decades, and in particular the last 4 years. But I'm kind of in this new relationship, and it's been amazing to me to be able to navigate a relationship that's really challenging for me and that brings up a lot of my unresolved trauma yet. And to be able to show up, I feel, every step of the way in a way that's healthy, mature, and in full alignment with my values. And that, I don't have words. And when I don't have words, that's, I mean, that feeling, and I would imagine that other people who are visionaries and highly sensitive, or who just in particular will resonate with this recording, I would think most of you would get the significance of being able to show up fully in alignment with your values, where like I reread emails that I wrote this person and I want to cry because I can't believe I can finally be this person. Like I've been working my whole life. I mean, even as a young child, I remember trying to figure out the secret of life, to figure out how I could live in a way that would work for me. And now I'm finally doing it, and I'm finally showing up as the me that I know that I can be. And it doesn't mean I'm far from perfect, and I still annoy myself with, well, how much I talk and how I interrupt people and how I can be too much and I can be inappropriate. And so I'm not saying that I love everything that I am, but mostly I show up in a way that I'm proud. I'm proud of how I'm showing up. And I'm able to, instead of, after decades of living in fight, flight, freeze, fawn, pretty much my whole life, and that something would happen and I would be so triggered that I never knew, or I wasn't able to ever deal with it. I might, after days, weeks, months, years of inner work, be able to come to the clarity of how I should have handled it. But now I'm able to, in the moment, do it, or bring myself there within a day or two. Like, it's mind-boggling. And it is all because I honored my vision that everybody told me, and even all the experts say, you can never heal your trauma. You can never be, like, you'll never be done with your healing. So I would get those kinds of messages. Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just enjoy what you have? Why can't you? 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 Because I fucking can't. That's why. Because I live in that gap.
Yeah.
But that's what brought me here. That's what brought me from being, suicidal for a year and a half and hitting rock bottom 4 years ago, and from having who I consider my wise woman say, I don't know how you're alive given what you experienced as a child. I don't know how anybody can experience all that and still be alive, and how I can go from that to right now being so happy and so thriving is because I honored my vision. And I don't know where I got that determination from, because I do think I have this really crazy determination that made me keep working at it for decades. Like, that vision is a gift. And that gap, as much as it's a fucking curse, is a gift too. So if all of this resonates with you and you want help, contact me. We'll set up like a free 30-minute conversation. And I know I've found so many amazing practitioners. So oftentimes when I talk with people, I don't even necessarily have them work with me. I'll say, ooh, sign up for this one program. Ooh, work with my friend Dana. Ooh, do sessions with Kristen, actually, who you would know who she was if I had let her talk. But maybe I'll let her talk for a few minutes before I need to go. Because I've trained Kristen to do emotional healing work too, and she's amazing. She really has a gift in it. And then there's Anami, who runs the self-love program, who I talked her into becoming a coach, and who's amazing at it, and I consider my wise woman when it comes to many things. So I have so many resources, and I feel like, and I've even figured out just in the past week, actually, I finally figured out like what my uniqueness is in terms of being a healing coach. And really what it is that I've studied different methodologies for the last, probably since I had Cassandra and I started reading nonfiction books. So 27 years, I've studied so many different things, and I would find a new thing and I would think, this is it. Like I found NVC, it was like, ooh, this is it. Like this is the end all be all. Well, no, it wasn't. Then I found the Sedona method. Ooh, this is it. Then I found the presence process. Then I found the Byron Katie work. Then I read The Power of Now. Then anyway, the list goes on and on and on. And what I've found now that I can do with people who contact me is that I get really a sense of who they are and what they're going through and what they need help with. And then I can send them. I'd be like, ooh, read this book. Ooh, this is what would help you next. Ooh, this is the person who can help you. And even like I did a call with a woman this week who I've known for many years and who's been getting a lot of help with a couple of people that she's been working with. And she said, there's 3 or 4 things that what I'm doing is not helping me with. So we just got on this call, and then she told me what each of those things were. And I could tell her exactly, okay, for this thing, do the NARC program, do 2 modules on this thing, let me know how you're doing, and I'll help you figure out more things to do NARC on. For this, book a session with Dana. For this, do this. For this, do this. So this is what I can help people with, because I've developed, and none of this for me, none of it is intellectual. It's all the stuff that I've done to free myself, to heal myself, so that I could get myself to being to the place that I was so freaking jealous of in my kids, of feeling whole and healthy and deserving and happy and going about life in a way that you feel whole and that you can be an effective human being and a happy human being because you're wired right. So that's what I'm excited to help people with. So if this resonates with you and you want to, you want help, just email me back. All right, so that was my little spiel on that. Okay, Kristen, do you have any questions or anything you want to add? I have 5 minutes left. So much for it being a conversation.
I mean, yeah, when you were talking, the biggest thing that came up, which you addressed at the end, was like how so much like the doubts of other people can make you like question that, you know, like that's to me the hardest part about it.
Yeah.
How can, like, you're never going to be happy, like, you know, kind of making you feel like you're tearing things apart everywhere you go, or you know what I mean, because it's not good enough.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm so glad you said that, because I guess I would add that as a recommendation is find somebody who understands, who gets it. Find somebody who understands your path and who can be your cheerleader. And like that's one thing that I love to do, and that I think might be the thing that I end up doing when it comes to healing work, because I can only work with a handful of people at a time in terms of doing weekly sessions, and I already have a few, so it's not like I have a lot of openings for that. But I love the idea of being that person, you know, where we can like check in once a month. Or if you're part of, let's say if you've done my clean parenting program and you're part of my sisterhood group, I can keep checking in with you and just remind you, yeah, you're on the right track. Okay, what's happening? And then as I get to know you, like that's one thing that's been amazing with Kristen and with the people that I work with. Even this woman that I talked to this week who had like the 4 things, because I've known her over the years, I was able to really help her because I know like what she struggles with. So like with Kristen, we'll be on a call and I'll say, okay, well, what you're hitting right now, again, is that feeling of hopelessness. And whenever you get that, you get so debilitated, and then you go in your head and questioning. So it's like just having that one person who knows you and can just reassure you, and who's been through it, hopefully, you know, and can be like, yeah, I understand. And right now, this is what you're going through, and it's okay. But don't worry, you're on the right track. Because I feel like so many times we get on calls, Kristen and I, when you're struggling, and you're like, oh, it's just the same old thing. I don't know how I can feel better. I don't even want to talk about it. And then you get off the call and you're feeling great. And oftentimes all I've done is like some version of reminding you that you're on the right track, and kind of seeing through, like, because you're triggered, you're emotional, you can't see the bigger picture. You can't have objectivity. And I just bring in the objectivity. and kind of remind you of what you're doing. And then that's all you need, you know, is to get out of the hopelessness and get that encouragement that you're on the right track. Because, well, I guess I don't know other people, but I know it's true for Kristen and I, is that if we trust that we're on the right path, we have the determination. We don't mind pain. We don't mind things being hard. We don't mind having to work hard if we trust the path. And where it gets so debilitating and where we lose so much time, and that's where it's so worth investing the money and getting that support, because you lose so much time when you're in the hopelessness or in the analysis or in the worry or in getting into your head. So if you can just have somebody who can shorten that, all of that, and then you can just stay focused on being proactive about dealing with your issues, it can shorten your journey like so much, and it benefits everyone. So yeah, you might go in debt for a few years, or you know, your kids might eat pizza instead of, I don't know, home baked spelt bread with organic cashew butter, you know, and or they'll be eating like Walmart brand pasta because you're broke with, you know, some crappy jarred tomato sauce. Who cares? Like, get yourself healthy, because once you get there, everything in your life will fall together and it'll benefit everybody in your life.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, well, I think I actually need to go. Thank you so much, Kristen. I love you. And I'm sure I'll call you or contact you when I get back.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.